As the East Coast and urban centres streak towards the new millennium, the realities and struggles of China's country people have changed very little in thousands of years. Caught in a twilight zone between the 10th and 21st centuries, many Chinese farmers, especially in the south, still farm in traditional methods, obey authoritarian regimes, and pay taxes to corrupt local officials. Apart from electricity, somewhat improved transport, and the occasional availability of limited health care, the rural life has remained basically unchanged. "875 million people live in rural China. The sheer number of Chinese peasants has made their role in history pivotal to the gaining and maintaining of power. The rural sector was radically changed by the communist programs of collectivisation and then sent into complete disarray by Mao's destructive Great Leap Forward, where thousands of collectives were grouped into even bigger communes. Drought and flood and no incentive led to the great famines of 1960 to 62, where as many as 40 million people died of malnutrition and starvation. Strangely enough, China's farmers, through the commune experience, have shown the rest of the nation that the communist theory did not work and have therefore fundamentally changed national beliefs. Deng's reforms led to rural revival. Private crops saw a massive increase in farm output and rural incomes. This buoyant rural recovery was quickly cooled by Beijing's austerity programs. Like farmers all over the world, Chinese farmers find it harder and harder to make a living. Rural incomes are a quarter that of their city counterparts. Relations between the farmers and the government have reached new lows as farmers feel more and more left behind by China's economic miracle. Excessive taxation from local communist cadres has further infuriated rural people. Rural anger towards endemic communist corruption has boiled over in mass demonstrations and riots. The overall effect has been to completely erode whatever trust remained between rural people and the party. The only hope for the Communist Party is to increase economic development and prosperity in the rural sector. Although dominated by the Han Chinese, China has many minority groups. The four largest minority populations are the Zhuang from Guangxi and Sichuan province, the He from Ningxia, the Miao from Yunnan, and the Manchus from Manchuria. But perhaps the most important minority groups for the Chinese government are the peoples bordering the north and west of the country. Forming the outer ring of China, the provinces of Inner Mongolia, Xinjiang, and Tibet are strategic buffers with neighbouring countries and historically independently minded. It is these minorities who best symbolise the ethnic problems of contemporary China. Despite the Mongolian language being no longer taught at most schools and the overwhelming predominance of Han Chinese, the Mongolians cling tenaciously to their ancient culture. The recent revival of Genghis Khan's popularity throughout the province is testament to this cultural strength. Mongolia is an autonomous region only in name. Han Chinese fill all important political positions. Early promotion of local Mongol leaders to positions of seniority lasted only as long as it was necessary, and since the Cultural Revolution, very few have any power. The crime of Mongolian nationalist chauvinism, as it is called, has seen thousands of arrests and thousands of detentions. The far west of China is dominated by the massive province of Xinjiang, covering almost a sixth of the country's total area. The Uyghur and Kazakhs are Turkic-speaking Muslims. They have fought for self-determination for decades. There are approximately 6 million Tibetans in China, 2 million of whom live in the Tibetan Autonomous Region and 4 million in what are now parts of Chinese provinces. Tibetan culture is thousands of years old and based around the worship of Tibetan Buddhism or Lamaism. It is an historically independent nation with separate languages and customs. Tibet provides China with a buffer to its potentially turbulent neighbours. Beijing attempts to interweave Tibet into the fabric of the Greater China. Exiled Tibetans believe their culture is quickly disappearing. Opposition to Chinese occupation has boiled over many times, including demonstrations in 87, 88 and 89. Tibet is now a heavily detained culture. Thousands are in jail. Whilst development is slowly coming to the resource-rich provinces, they lag behind the booming economies of the East Coast. Local people believe they're being left behind by Beijing. Beijing knows the best way to keep independently minded ethnic groups and provinces in line is continued economic growth.